we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.
We will not be held responsible for any hearing impairments or damage caused to you from excessive exposure to this sound.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of A Tilted World. My name is Derek Tilt. I am your host, and this is a comedy podcast to escape the chaos of the universe and enjoy the little things in life. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If this is your first time, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I hope you come back. Make sure to give us some stars, give us a review on iTunes. If you're on Spotify, follow. Anything you're on podcast, just follow us. Let us know how we're doing. Also, we're trying to grow, so if you share our stream and tag us in it, you will be entered to win free merch off of our website, atiltedworld.com. And I'm calling out all streamers, content creators, small business owners, whatever. If you want to be on the stream, you want to be on the show, talk a little bit about what you do, that's awesome. I would love to have you, so please make sure to message us, and we can get you on the show. We'll schedule in. We already have a few people in. Actually, our guests tonight are also podcasters. They're comedians, they are actors, and everything in between. So super excited. They are from the Biscuit Barrel. Am I saying that right? All right. Yeah. So welcome to the show, James and Alex.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Yeah, well, as well as you can be in a pandemic, but
thank you guys so much for being on. I know it's a little late your guys' time. We're going a little early here, but you know, I'm glad. Is this late for you guys?
Well, you know, for two nocturnal people, it's it's fairly standard, so don't worry.
Starting your morning off right. So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
What is a morning? That's it.
Yeah, 5 o'clock somewhere is what they say here. So, so you guys are a part of the Biscuit Barrel, correct?
Yep.
That's like the one.
Is it a troupe? Is that how you call it? A troupe group?
Yeah, comedy troupe. There we are. Yeah.
All right.
Troupe group, whatever. Yeah.
So, can you tell us about like what you guys, what the Biscuit Barrel is?
Yes, so we call ourselves a hyperactive comedy sketch show, primarily because so our live shows, which is our kind of first medium, I guess. So we do a lot of sketches in the space of an hour. So our last show, which is 2019 was the last time we had a new show, but because of the world. But yeah, we did 69 sketches in an hour. Very deliberately picked number there, but
don't Google it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you typed in 69 sketches and nothing else,
me, Montana, if y'all are watching, please search 69 sketches and see what comes up.
Yeah, specifically into Google Images.
It's very wholesome. That's awesome. So that is a lot of sketches, though. So, like, what?
Yeah.
Sorry, continue. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is it a good idea? A symptom of insanity? I'm not sure. But it started with so like I thought if you try to do a traditional sketch show, but at the speed of watching, you know, when you have a Vine compilation on YouTube or something, like, well, TikTok now, but that was an age slip right there. Yeah. The idea was to speed up the sketch show a bit, ever since, like, it's kind of gone along a bit because we learned some things on the way. Like, if you do too many sketches in an hour, you kind of lose the substance.
It gets like a little chaotic.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's already chaotic. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, no, you kind of find that there is a balance, yeah, I don't know if Alex has anything to add to that one.
Yeah, no, it tends to, you start off like with very quick sketches, and then you get into sort of the longer stuff and sort of more richer stuff at the end. But it was taking the best elements of the internet and sort of bringing that into the sort of more old-fashioned sort of theatre space. And that's kind of how we sort of pushed our show.
Yeah, that's it. We had in the first year we had a slogan called "The speed of the internet put on a stage," and that was the kind of come see the show kind of thing we had on the first year. But yeah, and then particularly with our full live shows, we'd also have something running through it as well. So in the 2019 show, for instance, Alex came up with this storyline of a pizza boy who spends the whole hang on, I don't know if I've cut out there briefly.
Oh no, you're fine.
But okay. So basically it was an idea of like a pizza boy's trying to deliver a pizza to the right sketch and keeps fucking it up. So he goes through the whole show trying to get the pizza to the right place. And so just
interrupting sketches and like walking in and pizza here and like no, we haven't ordered a pizza. Oh, okay, and then leaving again.
Oh, that's great. That's a good bit. I like that.
It worked well for us. Yeah.
So when you have like that many sketches, because you're just going and going, is that something y'all script out and practice?
Oh yeah,
together, or is it just like, what's next? This is
we have to memorize. We all memorize the set list, so we know what sketches we're in order, and we don't necessarily rehearse the lines as much, but we know what order we need to come out and what we're doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That helps us out because, like you say, it is chaotic having that many sketches.
Have you ever like been out like on stage on a sketch and been like, oh fuck, we're doing this one, not the other one?
Yes. We've had moments where someone will start saying a line and someone will go, oh, that's what we're doing, and everything will switch.
We're far more guilty of it when we're doing gigs. So when we're doing gigs and we're experimenting with new material, it gets far more messy. It's
someone will have the first line and they won't say it, and you're like, "Hey, person from the hot dog store," and they're like, "Oh yes, I'm from the hot dog store." Yeah.
And because our sketch, because like the material's so mad as well, you'd be like, are you the guy from the hot dog stand or the big world extinction event? Is that which one are you?
I think that's the biggest challenge, is there's so many characters you have to sort of like figure out and plan for, especially with like accents and things like that.
Yeah.
So like, how do you guys plan your write your sketches? Do you like, I did a little bit of improv in college, and I know that's a big way to like come up with ideas. Do you guys just get into a group and just start improving until something happens, or
there's two processes? There's one process which is just we all write separately and then we bring it together and workshop it. But then there's the other element where we have these workshop sessions. We have like prompts or unfinished ideas, and we just muck around for a couple of hours.
Oh, and it sounds so fun.
It's so fun. It's so chaotic. But by the end of it, you've got some really good ideas.
Yeah. I miss it.
I really miss improv. Like, so right after college, I joined, or not after, I dropped out of college. When I dropped out of college, I went straight into the military, and you don't go into the military and be like, hey, who wants to start an improv troupe? Like nobody's about it. So it's something I really miss that. And improv was like a wild experience. Like I did some theater in high school, and and a little bit with like church group and stuff, like doing shows, whatever. But then when I got to college and did improv, it was a whole new world, and it was so much fucking fun of like, and the best part about it too is like you go in there, whether it's a show or practice or rehearsal or whatever, you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen, and sometimes it's shit, and then sometimes it's just gold, and you will never forget those sketches, you know.
Yeah, that's it's interesting because whilst the show's scripted, particularly in the rehearsal space, like there's a lot of evolution to the script once it's in the rehearsal space, because you got 5 or 6 very creative people in one space, and you know, I've had like times where I've had this sketch written one way, but about 2 weeks after rehearsing, like it's kind of morphed into the unique voices of everyone in the group. And it is, I guess you kind of have that opportunity to let it kind of evolve, because I mean, particularly so guy in our group, Tom, he has a history of particularly having fun with his lines on the night of the show in a certain way we weren't expecting.
He will shock you. He'll come up and then he'll just do a completely different voice, and you're like, oh, okay, I've got to keep straight through this. I can't break.
Yeah.
We had a sketch once where it was about Henry VIII.
Yeah.
He plays Henry VIII. I play one of his wives, and every time
it's kind of like
yeah. Every time he'd go a different avenue, I'd go a different avenue, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, it was basically the sketch was Henry VIII goes on an Oprah type show. And,
oh my God, that's awesome!
Yeah. And he's kind of like Henry, what are you doing, Henry? You know, you've got through 5 wipes, you're on number 6. What's happening? What's going on in that head? You know, like. But yeah, no. This every night, these scripts changed.
Yeah,
because halfway through, Alex comes through as Anne Boleyn as well, and just walks and like, you cheating shitbag,
and the thing is, near the end, there's a bit where Anne Boleyn sort of takes a poke at his weight game, which is like quite known in the history. And every time I did it, I always said it in a different way. And every time Tom would be like, you cheeky little what's it? But he couldn't say it. He couldn't say it. He had to keep a straight face. And that was it's a great highlight.
Yeah.
So in those 69 sketch shows, where you do it in an hour, I imagine I don't know, in my mind, the chaos is so big, a lot of times you are improvising to make up for not really knowing what's going on. Is that a big thing, or
that happens?
It's certainly weirdly, you mentioned because the main big shows like the 69 sketches, we tend to be a lot more planned and rehearsed, but when we do the gigs where it's 10 minutes or 20-minute sets, it's a lot more chaotic because we've had less time to prepare.
Okay.
And I feel like that's when you sometimes almost get the better experience, where you just see us just completely trying to vibe or trying to get on.
It goes to shit. You just gotta go with
it. You've got a spectrum of them as well, because you've got some where you want to really impress who you're doing the gig for, and then you've got the other ones where you're kind of friendly with the venue and the night, so you can experiment a bit. And usually that's when we're developing a new show. We'll push more new material into those sets, and
a really good one was we did a gig at a caravan site. They had a big sort of show night, and all 6 of us turned up there, and they told us, it's an adult evening comedy and all that. We turned up there, there's loads of kids, 10 7-year-olds, and we're like, half of our content is not suitable for them. So literally 5 minutes before the show starts, where they're going, what can we do? So we have this completely new set list ready to go of comedy sketches, and it was so much fun and completely crazy. But we're there just halfway through a sketch going, I can't say the naughty word, I need to think of something.
And sometimes that would help get a laugh for the adults, because they knew exactly where that was supposed to go. They could
see the kids, and they're like, "Oh, that's why." Yeah,
it was that Pixar where it's The adult gets
Yeah.
it, the kid blind, no clue what's
Yeah.
going on.
Like when
Yeah.
the
And
kids
that was
when the kids were in the audience, did y'all address? Was it addressed beforehand, or would y'all just get on stage and be like, "Oh shit, there's kids"?
We'd already had a really like stressful. I guess we'd already had a very stressful 5 minutes redesigning the set. And so we kind of like, right, we're just going to go on and do this. Like,
Yeah, we literally had 5 minutes to go from, oh, there are kids here. We now need to rate this a bit lower.
Yeah.
All the time we have.
And like this was at the Edinburgh Fringe, but it was out of town at the Edinburgh Festival campsite. And so we'd got a bus there and then had to partake in what's supposed to be a 17-minute walk, but I'd led us the wrong way, so it was a 37-minute walk. And it was like it. I mean, to the point we weren't expecting kids there. It was a gig at like 10:30, and so it was like it'd gone pitch black, and we were just walking in the dark trying to find this campsite like, in the middle of nowhere. And then, so we were already kind of like heavy breathing from all this walking, and then we got there and then saw not only were there kids in the audience, but it was clearly like they were encouraged to be. They had like the special campsite crayons and coloring books there. They're all set ready for a good, you know. And so we had to get through 15 minutes of not offending anybody, which particularly in our first year at Edinburgh was already a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. So is it like no cursing, no like sexual innuendos? Like how does that work? Because I know like British comedy is like according to Americans, British comedy is pretty filthy. At least at one point it was, you know. So like how was that like how do you like censor shit, you know?
We don't really. The only sort of censorship we have is sort of within the group. So when we like feedback sketches and stuff, as long as everyone's happy with it, we go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, we have like disclaimers and everything like that. So like, it's all they're going like, okay, this might offend you. We're not here to offend you, but it might. So just be aware that it's a mature show kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we tend to just look at making sure that when we are making fun of like groups and stuff, that we're sort of like punching up other ways. We're not sort of like beating people. That are down before,
yeah.
And as with a lot of comics, I guess we always make sure the point of what the joke is above the belt. So as long as the point's in the right place, then
you're not trying to be like insulting. You're trying to make a joke about a flaw, but you're not trying to beat him down. You're just joking.
I think an important thing to point out is like you look at a joke, and if it is offensive, you look at it in a way where it's like, is there a way that you could rewrite the joke where it doesn't go for that kind of group?
Yeah.
Making sure that the joke is like not going there because it wants to. Just like, is it deliberate, or is it like, can you spin it another way where you don't have to go that avenue?
Yeah, I actually, that's funny. So like jokes hit different with different crowds. And so one of my first times doing stand-up comedy, I did a bit, and it's a true story, but and I'll share the rest of it with you after the show. But the premise of the
sort of story?
Yeah, the premise of the joke was I thought I was black for the first 18 years of my life until I met my father, and then I found out that I was Filipino. And so I said that joke, and it was like my third time on stage or something. And I said that in a room full of white people, and no one laughed. Except for there was one black dude in the back, and he thought it was hilarious. Like he was laughing, and like, but that night, like I bombed so bad. Like nobody laughed at my jokes, and like, I got off stage. I went straight to the bar. I was like, "Give me a shot." Like, and I'm sitting there, and I'm drinking my whiskey, and this dude from the back comes up, and he sits next to me, and he buys me a drink, and he was like, "That was a funny fucking joke." He was like, "I know these white people don't get it," and I was like, "Thank you." And I said that joke 2 weeks later in a pretty mixed crowd. and it killed. It was really good, but like
we had that for a show we did. We had a great guy called Adam Olive is his name, and he does some great jokes. And we had him open for like our new show content, and apparently he absolutely bombed during the opening. And we're like, what do you mean? He's great, he's hilarious, but our audience didn't appreciate him. It was such a shame. But Cap, who's also in our group, she does a lot of stand up, and she's very much the same way. She's like, it completely depends on the crowd. You have to like, you see the crowd and then you alter your content to try and figure out what they're into.
And that's I guess that's likewise why in our full shows the material's quite diverse, so there's a kind of bit for everybody. So you got the bluer stuff in there, but then you got more abstract weird jokes where we're spinning around each other and we're actually the sun, earth, and moon. And so you got so like the guy in the middle is like morning earth, morning moon, and he's like morning sun, and it's weird because that's often seen as like our kind of kingpin joke, but sometimes people can't follow what's going on with it, and sometimes it doesn't click, which is interesting. Because particularly like the first time we ever did it, like that was kind of a like rocket of laughter. It was like the highlight of the show. But then there was this one show towards the end of one of our Edinburgh runs, and there's some context like with Edinburgh Fringe, we get such diverse experience. To your point about different audiences, because we do the same show 26 nights in a row across
26 nights in a row. Shit, that's a lot. That's not like a weekend where you just knock it all out. Oh my god,
Edinburgh Fringe is intense.
You get that.
By the end of it, you want to murder each other, but at the same time, it's such a valuable experience.
Well, you definitely grow a thick skin, because like you'll get nights where once we had a night where the entire side row of our audience, so like there was 6 people would come in together as a group, and they'd Tom came to us, was kind of like, guys, these guys are all on cocaine, and we've got
they were completely out of it.
Dude, 26 nights in a row, I would be fucking doing coke after like night 10. I'd be like, let's get it going. Let's start.
We like if you can afford to do the Fringe, do it, because even if you don't get success, it's such a valuable experience from just those nights.
Like,
there's so much you experience from it.
So I do have a comment. So this is my mother. She knows British comedy because my dad and I forced her to watch it. But so doing all your shows and it's sketch comedy in general, you have to do impressions of almost anybody that comes to mind. Do you have any favorite impressions that you do? Whether it's demographic, a celebrity, whatever.
I'll be able to feed in Alex here, because like there's a sketch where it's interesting because the impression's in there, but the whole point is it's a reverse impression. So we got one sketch where it's a depressed, rundown Mickey Mouse on a chat show.
Oh yeah. Well, it's him sort of talking about his career, and so the whole thing is that he speaks in a normal voice, and then every once in a while it cracks out. It's like, he would just be there like, that was good.
Like the first one is, so I'll feed in the line where it's like, still doing the same signature giggle, and then
no, not really.
I love it.
No, we do. It's quite funny because when it comes to writing sketches, you sort of have these accents or impressions, and you're like, okay, who can do this? Who can do this voice? And we will give it a go, and whoever is the best, they get it. It's like SNL when they have like a new politician, they all audition everyone to try and figure out who's the best person to play this character. I think my favorite impressions are, I quite like doing Jim Broadbent. It's like, well, obviously, but I just like his positivity. But then I think the other voice I like is Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
I haven't done a Scooby Doo sketch, but his impression's really good.
The problem is it ruins my voice, so it's not really suitable for like doing shows with. As soon as I do the voice, like, okay, I can't be in the next 2 or 3 sketches. I need to recover now.
Get a glass of water.
Yeah, exactly.
Settled out. Yeah.
I mean,
Honestly,
I hate to break to you, but you've put it on the table now, so you're gonna have to do it.
James is right. Yeah, you got to say it now.
Oh no, it's because as soon as I do this, it's going to mess up terribly.
And we got to give him about 2 shows to recover. So
yeah.
Yeah. Hang on. I'll try and do the laugh, but it's dreadful. As best I can do now. But you mentioned the drinking of the water in between, and that's a big thing for us because as soon as we do like a sketch, as soon as we leave the sketch, we're like, "Where's our bottle of water?"
Bottle of water, yeah.
Or blackcurrant in terms of Daryl, but
Daryl doesn't drink water. He really drinks blackcurrant.
That's it. Yeah, no, because Daryl doesn't like the taste of water, so he just drinks squash all the time.
And the funny thing with that is once we both had identical water bottles, so we're like, "Oh God, which one is mine? Is it the red one or is the blue one?" And then we've had times where James has pinched my water bottle for a sketch.
Yeah.
On the other side of the sketch, like on the other side of the stage out of sight. And it's like, I'm not over there for another 15 minutes. I can't drink anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because this was at a festival where the theatre didn't have, you couldn't walk around the back. So once you're on one side of the wings, you couldn't get to the other. So his bottle of water was trapped there for half the show
until he was off stage. Oh, that's.
I was just there like, I'm gonna kill James after this show.
Yeah.
Did your voice crack after that? Your voice too dry? Your throat too dry?
I was suffering so hard during that show.
Yeah. It's definitely a pre-COVID anecdote as well. That's serious term sharing.
I was like, if I like was in the same position pre-COVID and I saw like a water bottle, I'd just be like, all right, here we go. Like, I don't care who it is. Like, I got a drink.
We've never told each other, but we've definitely stolen each other's water bottles at some point.
Oh, of course. It's just sipping another bottle.
Like,
it's not.
They're on stage. I'm just gonna pinch this while they're not here. Yeah. I need this.
To be fair, coming out of Fringe, it's hard not to pick up some kind of illness. It's a bit like Comic-Con or Freshers. It's I
don't know if they have it in America, but like here at university, you have like Freshers Flu, which is like the first week of college for you guys. Where, like, because of everyone mixing, you will get like the flu in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I forget what we called it. I want to say, no, what the fuck was it called? I know exactly what we were talking about. It's like your first week at college, you're in the dorms, and everybody just gets sick because they're living together. Yeah. No, I totally understand what that's like. Yeah,
we call it Freshers Flu, and it's the same at Fringe, where once you've finished, everyone gets ill afterwards.
Yeah, because it's like,
you've combated every other illness, like trying to push through those like couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And as soon as that drops, you're ill, and that's it.
That's it. Because it's nearly 4 weeks, and so
you meet so many people. Yeah.
And in 2019, 7 million people came through the festival. It was so you know that's 7 million diseases coming in to get you.
So what you're saying is it's England's fault for COVID, not China.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, we birthed the new variant, so that's.
I think the variant's the funniest thing because, of course, as soon as like Corona came out, everyone was like, "Oh, the China flu." Is like, oh, you can't call it that. I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough. And then as soon as the new variant came out, they're like, "Oh, well, the UK version." Like, don't call it the UK.
My favorite thing was there was this sketch that came out after that by this guy. And basically he was this kind of like kind of patriot soaked British man. He was like, "Oh, I'm pretty proud of this British flu," you know, like why can't we be proud of English COVID? I mean,
we have a really ironic sketch which we wrote back in March of 2019, and it was called Plague Party. And this is before COVID or the pandemic happened.
Oh god,
And
yeah.
I wrote a sketch, and it was all about these 4 girls at a slumber party, and they're all going like, "Well, I got the flu, and it merely made me like perspect life and really value it. So I'm going to give you all the flu as well." I'm like, "Oh, don't do that. That's a bad idea." And we had this sketch, and we never got a chance to perform it. And then COVID came. We're like, "Well, now we can't perform it at all.
Yeah.
It's now way too relevant."
That's
It
offensive.
was literally written for our 2020 show, and that's just fucking ironic.
That is the worst, because I even wrote in it. I was like, "I got this flu when I was traveling in Asia," and I was like, "Oh no,
No, shut the fuck
I
up.
really-
Real? No.
yeah, I really hit it on the head. Way too bad."
Yeah.
That's insane. When did you write this sketch? Was it like in
I wrote it
October?
in October
Shut
time.
Yeah.
Oh, all right then.
I showcased it to the rest of the group in November, and we had a gig coming up, but it's 4 people because there's 4 of them at this slumber party I wrote. But there's only 3 of us, so we're like, "Oh, we'll leave that for a later one," and then a later one never came because of COVID. So
And funnily enough, also at the time, like my sister's involved in performing as well. And she's very talented, so she was with a production who are going to bring up a play to a musical to the Fringe about a pandemic.
oh yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This is pre-pandemic. She said this.
Yeah. So they were planning this since winter 2019, before any of the news had come out. So you just have these weird coincidences that it's kind of we were all secretly prepared for this pandemic in weird ways. But no.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so crazy. It's insane how that kind of stuff works, where it's like,
Yeah.
you joke about sickness or the flu or whatever, and then boom, pandemic happens. Thousands of people died, and you're like, "Oh fuck!" Like,
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like The Simpsons, isn't it? Like Simpsons has so many predictions about it.
Yes, yeah. They actually had a really wild one that was on the 20th of 2021, where Homer Simpson was sitting on top of their house, and the whole world was burning behind him, and people were freaking out because that was when the when the inauguration was happening, and people were like, "Oh shit!" Like, the world's gonna end today, and like,
Yeah.
We won't get into American politics. It's a shit show. So I gotta ask. So, what got you both into comedy, or sketch shows, or acting, or whatever?
I'll let James start first with this one.
Oh yes. So like mine started quite young and in a very embarrassing way. So I know what Alex is probably thinking about, but just before then, when I was 15, I was in a school talent show and did this self-performed physical comedy sketch in front of a bunch of parents, and it was basically this guy sat on a bench on his own, and I basically timed the act to this pre-recorded kind of sports workout video, and like, so this unassuming man in a suit like has to do all the actions to what the sports guy is saying, and the video footage does exist, but it's not getting out there.
Does it really?
Yeah, my dad filmed it. I'm sure that a lot of my career since has been defined of this bit. Like, try and make sure that you've got enough good stuff under your belt before this video finally escapes into the world. Yeah. So it started there, and then when I was 16, I did YouTube sketches for 3 years, and it was in enough of a time frame for Alex to get the tail end of that.
Are these still around, or did you take it off?
Yes, they are
still around.
Okay.
Some of them have been privatized by my mate who I was making them with, because he's currently training to be a lawyer, so he didn't want certain sketches. so
This in my background. You got to take it down. Yeah,
he definitely would have been part of the Biscuit Barrel if he wasn't going for that career. He was great.
Yeah. So, he's got a master's in law, so he's kind of like, yeah, Jay, there's certain things on this channel that I just can't have out there.
What about you, Alex? What got you into comedy?
Well, my parallel to James is when I was at school, my only sort of thing like that was there was a talent show, and me and my friend, we did a karaoke thing, and it was Sweet Home Alabama. But we changed the lyrics to our ICT teacher, and we basically sang the song going, "Oh yeah, our ICT teacher, she's great, we love her." And that was our introduction into just trolling everyone. It was purely because there's a line in Sweet Home Alabama which says Montgomery, and our ICT teacher was called Mrs. Montgomery. So we just picked up on that and just trolled the entire way through. Yeah, after that, during school, we did. I did a couple of pantos, and then at university, I joined a acting society and did some sketches. And then James came along. He's like, "Oh, that's funny. You should join me in the comedy stuff that I'm doing." I was like, "Okay, I'm not doing anything else." And this happened. So I've just been, I just joined the ride.
Here's a really dumb American question. Sure. When you guys say university, are you talking about college or high? Okay.
Yeah. So
TV where I'm like, oh, these guys are definitely in high school, and they're like, oh yeah, university, and I'm like,
see, it's funny
yeah,
because you have like school, and then like near the end of school, and school sort of, I'd say school finishes at like 18 years old. And at 18, you decide whether to sort of progress into like college or to drop out and get a job.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way you go. And university is like the next step on. But then I had also people from university that would move to America and go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of figured out that was kind of the same thing, or kind of the same direction.
If they went to America and they went to University of, did they still call it college, or do they call it university?
They still call it college if they go to America.
Okay.
Like I had, it's kind of bad. I had two people. They both went on like sport fun. So one did rowing really well, and one did like golfing really well. And they both got like American scholarships.
Okay.
So, oh, you're so good. We'll pay for your college. Go to America. And they're like, okay. So off they went. And that was it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was said in the beginning, but Aaron's asking, where are you guys from in the UK?
Nice. So currently, because I've moved about a bit, and so's Alex. So currently, I'm living in Bristol, where they make the Aardman films like Wallace and Gromit and stuff, and that's probably the biggest claim to fame. We're also in the protests last year. We were also the place where the statue got pulled down. That's another thing. I was there that day. That was good. I wasn't involved. I just watched. Like, yeah, sure. Let's take down the racist statue. That's great.
You were the guy in the background, like, yeah, what they're doing. Yeah.
I had my little sign and my mask on. I was just looking like a plum, but I was there. I was there.
You tell your grandchildren, yeah, I was there when that happened.
Yeah. Well, it'll be this generation's version of the Vietnam protests. It's kind of like
exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of like half the people will say they were there probably did like fuck all other than standing around, but it's still, like it's kind of like you kind of had this kind of like, oh, we're a part of events, like it's kind of like
that would be a good like bit or a sketch where it's like you're at a protest, but it's like 3 dudes or 4 or 5 people, and they're sitting there, but they're like bird watchers.
Oh,
and they're like, observing it from afar, and they're got binoculars, and they're like, "Oh, the statue's down now."
The
Hey, fellas, the statue's down. Everybody starts cheering and going crazy for no reason.
Yeah,
we took a different direction. We had a sketch. Didn't get in the end. We didn't perform it in the end. But we had a sketch where we had like signs, or like if they were sentient, so it's like the signs could talk, and the signs just being like, "They painted this statement on me, but I don't quite agree with it." They throw me in the air with this statement on me, but I just don't feel right to me.
Like if you were a stop sign, the stop sign would be like, "I just want people to go."
Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah. So we had that, and then the other sketch we had was we had that sort of argumentative side, but we had it where the protest was about eating fruit and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And the Tom was like, "Eat and fruit are all the same."
yeah.
And the reporter goes, "Oh, carrots," and everyone turns to them and gets really outraged by that.
Wasn't there something about a tomato protesting that it was a vegetable? Was there something about that?
Oh no, we had a sketch where a potato proclaimed they could be a chip, and so they sold potatoes, and all of that kerfuffle. For Daryl sketches, yeah.
So
we had some crazy stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So Alex, what got you into comedy?
Ooh, so like I said, I had the whole thing at school, but later on in school, I did like a couple of pantos, a couple of like stage productions. But with that, I was much more of like a background sort of actor. I was, like the chorus and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But then when I went to university, there was an acting society I joined, and they're like, "Oh, has anyone got any good ideas?" And I started writing stuff on a whim, and they're like, "Oh, that's actually really good. Keep going." So I kept going, and that's kind of like where it just started just to keep coming more and more.
Yeah.
So my experience is just through university, and then I did like YouTube back in the day. So I sort of did YouTube from 2010.
Did you do YouTube before you met James, or?
Yes.
Well, he went to all the YouTube space stuff as well.
Yeah, I was a lot more involved in the sort of the YouTube community from 2010 2012. That sort of era.
Oh, so like good YouTube.
Yeah.
Not what's going on now.
Yeah, good
YouTube is shit.
So exactly. It's trash now, but like I met all those people before then. So I met so many people. I met like Dodie and all sorts, just like for like gatherings and just hanging out and stuff. And it was so much fun. And then that all got a bit twisted and messed up. So I kind of left that and just focused on uni. Mm-hmm. And then I joined uni about 2 years before James did. And at the acting place, I was doing these sketches. I did a sketch called Ducks on Cocaine, where a farmer is ducks cocaine. And it's two farmers going, "Why did you do this to them?" And it's just these ducks going crazy. And because of that and other sketches, James decided he wanted to involve me in his Biscuit Barrel project. So he eventually contacted me, and I've been here ever since.
I mean, full circle in the most recent show that a newer version of that sketch got into the show.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I just realized that I backtracked to a question I already asked you, but I'm glad that I asked that.
Well, you got more answers.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, I should have asked that earlier. But so back to where are you from, Alex? Where in the UK are you at?
So currently I'm in Hampshire, which is sort of like southeast England. But in terms of where I grew up, I was born in Silverstone, which is where the Formula One Grand Prix happens in the UK. But at an early age, I moved and I was at the very tip top of Scotland.
Okay.
So like the very top of Scotland near John O'Groats, that's where I lived pretty much until I was sort of 16, 17.
And then where did you go to university?
I went to Winchester, which is where I met, which is back down.
Yeah, we both went to uni of Winchester. Yeah.
James, so James grew up.
So you guys met in college then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's where the barrel really kicked off. Was we started as a college group, and then we kind of developed into a comedy group, theatre company, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of evolved from our time in college together. It's
Okay. So my next question for you guys, because sketch comedy has a lot of like just different avenues or windows of approach to it. You got acting, you have writing, you have impersonating. Do you guys have any like big inspirations? Like what really like got you to like, oh, this is why I do this, or this is how I want to approach this or this sketch, you know?
I'd say for me, I had two like drastic oppositions. Like, obviously YouTube and everything, like that was a big inspiration, the way people were doing stuff like that. So seeing what other people were creating on there, and just how Reddit worked and how Twitter worked and all the memes, that really inspired me to sort of like contribute and do my own stuff. But then at the same time, it was my dad's inspiration. So my dad would show me like stuff that he found funny. You know, oh, this would be funny. It's just a child. And the things that he showed me was like, there's a film called Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines. It was like from the 60s, like a really old comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Me old comedies like this. Like, oh, this is funny. And then he'd show me old musical acts, like one that I think of is like Flanders and Swan, like a really old British musical trio. And it's like, he was an old British Navy officer and a Russian pianist who escaped before the war happened. And they created a whole bunch of musical comedy and sort of old stuff like that. So I'd have my dad show me all this old fashioned stuff, and then me being shown YouTube and all this new comedy stuff, and me sort of like going, here's the best bits from that. Here's the best bits from that. Let's combinate it. And that's kind of what inspired me to create this new stuff, which is like a combination of the best of both worlds.
I like the invention of the word combinate there.
Well, no, it's taking the best of what you know and then adding it to what you think of, isn't it?
I think we should adapt to combinate, to be fair. I like that word actually.
That's what inspires me. So old-fashioned stuff, and what we're developing and exploring now.
What about you, James?
So I guess my earliest thing would be when I was 3 years old, seeing Lauren Hardy being smashed in the face with a piano. So that's like, I had that Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry from when I was a toddler, which was probably quite a violent upbringing, really, looking back at it.
Tom and
This
Jerry.
is why husbands abuse their wives.
Yeah.
Oh, back in the good old days.
Back in the good old days. Yeah. You could hit her with a pan and they'd make dinner.
Yeah. Oh, God. But yeah, no, like old-fashioned slapstick immoral comedy.
Yeah.
Then later on, I had to get introduced to some of the classic British sitcoms like Fawlty Towers, and then that's where the worshipping of the great John Cleese began.
Yes,
and what was I saying? That's it. So then Monty Python then came after that, and I was like, oh wow, he did all this as well. So I guess that was the start of it, and then specifically with Biscuit Barrel, it was then seeing the whole new internet generation of comedy, where it's kind of, wow, you can just like do this stuff yourself now, and then just put it out there, and it's you don't have to go through so many loops to get yourself on a screen, your work on a screen. So in some ways very similar to Alex in that kind of combination of the old and new, I guess. So
I like I told you guys before we started, Monty Python was something that I grew up on. Like my father, my dad Aaron, who's been commenting, and my mom, they it was kind of ingrained in us growing up, like you better like Monty Python or you're not our child kind of thing. I was introduced to Monty Python as a kid, like very young age, watched Holy Grail, loved it. And this was pre-YouTube. So my dad would and his friends would have all these references to Flying Circus that like I didn't understand. I didn't really know. And then he would have to explain it to me and like explain the sketch and you know, the spam sketch that they do is fucking out of this world, crazy good. And but like he would explain these things to me and I was like, oh, that's fucking funny. And then literally I think it was like last year or maybe it was 2 years ago, they put the Flying Circus on Netflix.
Oh yeah, they did. They dropped everything on there. Didn't they?
I binge watched everything. I'd seen Life of Brian. The Meaning of Life is my favorite one of all.
Yeah.
But
wow. Yeah.
I would do like when I started doing stand up, I was like, man, I was doing writing and like trying to figure out my voice and like what, you know, the style of shit that I was trying to do. But like I would watch Monty Python for like inspiration of like, that's how you make a joke like that work.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, it would make the wheels turn. So Monty Python is by far like one of my biggest inspirations for me, at least, because it's like, it's so like for our generation, at least, it's so old, you know, but it's so like, it's like primal, but it's funny to any generation. Like, it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
That's something that's relevant about it now, because when you look at it now, it's like this was made like 30, 40 years ago, but it's still relevant today with the context and what they're joking about.
Yeah.
And that's so great about it. Cause like, this like, I hate to use the word vintage, but it's this vintage comedy where you look, it's like, this relates to today. This is amazing.
It's also
40 years ago, what's going on?
Well, it's also you can see so clear it's the first time certain attitudes were being broken down. Like it's Monty Python's the kind of standard for showing that you can break the rules. Like the whole deal with with not having punchlines at the end of sketches, and even I like that there's stuff where they just where these sketch doesn't work. Like there's so much faith. Like there's lots of risk taking in Monty Python, particularly in Flying Circus, and there is a lot of stuff in there which is a bit cruddy. And you know, I kind of celebrate for that because it's almost like they, with the animations as well, they all make it part of the same stream of consciousness. Yeah, and it's that kind of way that they created this environment where you could risk making stuff that might not work, but then find a format that justifies it completely.
Yeah, so one of my favorite sketches that they do, and I think this was a bit in Flying Circus that they did every episode, it was, now it's time for something completely different. And then it would just be some fucking absurdity where like it just pans to whatever the fuck's going on, whether it's a desk in the middle of a field or whatever. Like that's the fucking, like, that to me is like comedy at its like roots. Like, it's funny because it makes zero sense at all. Like,
well, I think
that's it. Yeah, the comedy and nonsense. Yeah.
Well, I think the value or sort of thing to take from that is just the commitment. They just commit every level. It's like they stuck in like, okay, we're gonna do this, and that's it. I think that's what makes certain bits more successful. It's just that confidence and that they're not afraid to go fully into. Like, there's one sketch I like, which is when they have the Women's Institute Drama Society redo the destruction of Pearl Harbor, and it's so calmly set up, and then it's just them fucking about in the mud for 2 minutes. It's like scripts going, and it's like I feel like as soon as the Brits or the British make fun of like American history in particular, there's no level of like care for sensitivity. They just go for it.
Go for it.
And it brings interesting results, shall we say.
One of the funny things, I think, like, you know how they say history repeats itself, you know, Monty Python had a famous sketch. I had a poster of it when I was a kid of the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And there's no words. They just fucking walk across the sidewalk doing crazy shit. And
yeah, I mean, to be honest with that sketch, because I grew up with flat feet, that was just me walking home from school. But that's
yeah, you both. Yeah.
But yeah, I found it relatable, to be honest. I was like,
this isn't a comedy. This is a drama.
Yeah, get that guy some insoles into their shoes.
But I saw a TikTok 2 days ago of the same sketch, but like it was these like high schoolers doing that. They were like, I don't remember what the like you caption was, but basically it was them just walking funny. And I was like watching it and I was like, oh my God, like they did this 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It was better than this. Like,
yeah.
TikTok
it's interesting because one of the things that kind of another, like, well, as far as my contribution to Biscuit Barrel anyway, was an influence, was this show called The Fast Show. And basically it was that fast comedy format prior to anything like Vine or TikTok. It was so it's from the 90s, and basically they do sketches that were we've kind of taken it a bit further. Ours are a bit quicker, but no sketch will be longer than 90 seconds. And so it'll be like they do the same character every week, but it still be fast paced. So you'd learn more about the character in each sketch every week because they do the same thing over and over. But it's self-contained. It could be a sketch in itself. So so that was another influence of us, and likewise a precursor to the fast-paced comedy we see on the internet now. It's weird because with Monty Python as well, you don't think that these people have been influenced by Monty Python, but it's interesting how it's just come through and they've just done it. And it's
it's crazy. So you guys just started a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I say brisket. I'm from Texas, so we eat brisket. So biscuit, me to say, but Biscuit Barrel Broadcast.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, no. So we've as I've been coining it, we've converted the sketch show into MP3 and put it online. That's kind of we've done our best for that anyway.
I'd say it's gone full circle. We've gone to the theatre with our internet ideas, and now we've come back to the internet with what we've learned from theatre and the internet.
Yeah,
the two coming back. Yeah.
And it's kind of like doing what we do, but at the same time that element of, oh shit, they can't see us.
Was that a weird transition from you guys to doing like live stuff to just audio?
Yes.
We did a trial before where basically for a module at uni I had to do a radio pilot for the module, and we did a kind of Biscuit Barrel radio pilot, but that was the closest we'd got. We hadn't actually fully done a full series of audio sketches before.
It's positives and minuses, because there's some stuff on stage that obviously doesn't work because you don't have the visual element working with you. But then there's also other styles of jokes where, because they can't see you, there's like the expectation of what they're going to say. And so there's some sketches that you originally wrote that, okay, this doesn't work anymore. But now there's new stuff. They're like, oh, this is something we can explore now, and we can explore new avenues of comedy. Yeah. And we've certainly done that with some of our, like we had a sketch in episode 2 where they're like in the void. So you just hear the voices, but they can't see, hear, or smell anything. And it's a great experience to sort of explore those avenues that you wouldn't be able to do on stage. So it worked out for us. It's good fun.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's like you've got so many different styles you can go to. Like they're like with the void, for instance, is just like playing on the fact that he's like, but there's nothing. And then there is also the the whole thing where you can make a punchline something the audience can't see until you've said it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the drawing back the curtain format, but you can't see the curtain either. So it's a challenge, but it's another style of humor that plays well into what we're already doing. So it's lots of ways to go about it, and it's been very interesting, and also it pushes your creativity more. So yeah.
Well, I love it, and I've listened to a few episodes, and I like it. It's funny, and I encourage everybody that's watching or listening to check it out. Alex, James, you guys want to plug your stuff real quick?
Go for James.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess the main thing for us at the moment will be the Biscuit Barrel broadcast. So at the moment, it's every Saturday. It's available from. So still very young series. So episode 4 goes out on Saturday, and so that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I should say, and also we're starting to put them up on YouTube as well. So we're expanding the YouTube channel a bit more now, which has also got our video sketches on there, which were originally put on the Comedy Crowd Network, but they're on our YouTube channel to watch as well. So so we'll be putting more content on there as well. And as it says there, biscuitbarrelcomedy.co.uk is where you basically can find every different pathway to our social media and our podcast and our sketches. So that's it for us.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. These guys were awesome. I know you guys had a great time watching and listening. Make sure to follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere you can find podcasts. Also Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Just search A Tilted World and you'll find us there. So thank you guys so much for joining us. If this is your first time, please come back again. And we are so glad to have you. And we will see you next week.